Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar and workshop series conducted by TCS in lieu of the upcoming OCS exams happening in August 2025. My name is Nicholas and I'm your lead tutor for OCS at TCS. So let's look at the session outcomes. First things first, I'm going to share some tips which will enable you to rebound from failure. Those who are part of this session might have failed their OCS exam in the previous sitting. If so, I will be sharing certain issues which you might have faced in the previous sitting, and for each of these issues, I will be providing recommendations so that you can overcome these issues when conducting preparations focused on your upcoming exam. And also, the most important element of today's webinar is the answering and time management technique, which I'm going to teach you. After I've taught you these two techniques, I will take you through one of the mocks which we have developed. To be precise, mock number 1, section 2. And whilst taking you through the question and the answer, I will explain how you can implement these answering and time management techniques in the most practical manner. All right. So before we get into the nitty-gritties, let me quickly tell you what we have lined up for you in the upcoming weeks. So the fourth webinar, exam prep, is happening next Saturday at 16 GMT or 5 p.m. UK time. And in this webinar, I will be taking you through examiner's comments because it's essential that you understand what's requested from you, what the examiner expects from you, and at the same time, I will share some tips which will enable that will ensure that you manage your stress levels both during your exam and whilst attempting your mock exams. Because when attempting mocks, as per our study plan, you are supposed to start attempting mocks this week onwards. So when attempting mocks, definitely you will be exposed to extreme levels of stress. So your objective when attempting mock exams is to not just master your answering and time management technique, you need to master your stress management technique as well. So all these things will be explained in depth in the fourth webinar. And once the webinar series is done, we are kickstarting our workshop series, which starts with the F1 workshop, followed by the P1 and E1 workshops. So in each of these workshops, I will take you through your relevant syllabus areas, and at the same time, I will take you through a mock exam, thereby explaining how to tackle one single concept concerning each pillar, F1, P1, or E1. And just like in our webinars, in these workshops, I will be opening up for Q&A. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can always get them addressed via these workshops. And the final workshop, which happens 2 or 3 days before the exam, I will be sharing last minute tips with you to make sure that you walk into the exam with a high level of positivity, believing in yourself, because if you do so, you can easily pass this examination. So I hope you'd attend these weekly webinars and workshops, which are conducted live every week. And at the same time, this is the best way to keep tabs about your performance on a weekly basis. All right. So having said that, let's try to figure out how you should or what you should do to rebound from failure. So if you failed your OCS exam, maybe in the sitting in May or in a previous sitting, don't get demotivated. Your job is to change your preparation strategy. So you might have encountered certain shortcomings when conducting your preparations. So first things first, you need to conduct your personal reflection and see whether you gave your best. Okay, so with this in mind, you need to figure out where you went wrong in the previous examination. You need to diagnose the reasons first and address them this time, because if you keep repeating the same mistakes over and over, you will keep failing this exam. So it makes absolutely no sense to repeat the same mistakes. So it's essential, now that you have received your marks, it's essential that you sit in one place, be involved with a personal reflection with the intention of understanding what went wrong last time. So also, when trying to understand what went wrong last time, it helps if you have access to exam standard and pre-seen specific mock exams, because this is the most crucial study resource out there. Because when conducting preparations, if you relied on substandard mock exams, or if you relied on ChatGPT, for instance, I've dealt with students who rely on ChatGPT when it comes to attempting CIMA mock exams, which is never going to work for you. And at the same time, if you relied on past exam variants, then this time you need to totally change your strategy and rely on exam standard and pre-scene specific mock exams instead. So after going through these type of mock exams, suggested answers and answer plans, you for yourself will realize what went wrong last time and what you should have achieved when conducting your preparations. And therefore, the action plan should be to work smarter than the previous attempt, which is to simply stick to our study plan. There's absolutely no point of doing everything under the sun in an unstructured manner. I've dealt with students who will go through syllabus areas, thereby going through study texts, thereby spending or wasting a lot of time. Instead, when conducting your preparations focused on a case study examination, you need to solely rely on the mock exams and the resources which we have developed based on these mock exams. So that's the smarter way to do things, because from this day until your exam, there's just 6 weeks. So within the upcoming 6 weeks, if you waste time, you will not have enough time to attempt all mock exams and at the same time conduct revision. So in order to avoid such a situation, you have to start preparations right now. This does not mean that you need to go through your past exam variants or your old study notes or your study texts. If you do so, you'd end up wasting a lot of time. Instead, you need to start preparations based on the mock exams and conduct your revision based on the same mock exam. So that's the smartest way to approach this exam and get everything done within 6 weeks. All right. So then let's try to understand what leads to a failure based on what most students encounter. So the biggest problem is practicing just 2 or 3 mock exams, because as per the CIMA examiner, you are supposed to be conversant with all syllabus areas which are covered under your E1, F1, and P1 syllabi. And as I mentioned earlier in the first webinar, I mentioned the fact that your case study exam is P1 and F1 heavy. So if you have knowledge gaps, especially given the fact that the OCS exam is a highly technical examination, 80% of the questions will be based on testing your syllabus knowledge or theoretical concepts. When this is the case, if you have knowledge gaps, then you can't pass this exam. So in order to make sure that you cover the entire syllabus, and in order to make sure that you are conversant with how each syllabus area is tested at this exam, you need to make up your mind to attempt 6 mock exams. So when it comes to a mock exam, each mock exam should consist of 4 main sections, just like in your real examination. I've dealt with students who say that I've completed 15 mock exams and 25 mock exams. Actually speaking, you have not attempted full mocks. Instead, you have simply attempted 15 or 25 sections or subtasks. This is not going to help you. If you want to really pass this examination, you need to attempt full 6 mock exams. Okay, and each full mock exam consists of 4 sections. So 4 into 6 comes up to 24 sections in total. So in order to be fully prepared, you need to attempt full mock exams. And how many mock exams are you supposed to attempt? 6 mock exams. So you might be wondering, okay, why should I attempt 6 mock exams? If you had gone through past exam variants or past papers, you would have seen, focused on each pre-seen document, the examiner develops 6 different versions or 6 different variants. Why is the examiner developing 6 variants or 6 versions? Because the intention of the examiner is to cover the entire syllabus when developing these exam variants. So you can't cover the entire syllabus if you rely on just 3 or 4 mock exams. Instead, if you want to cover the entire syllabus, what you need to do is you need to make sure to attempt 6 mock exams, just like what the examiner does, to make sure to cover the entire syllabus. So with regards to syllabus coverage, you have access to this document which can be downloaded via our student dashboard. So as per the syllabus coverage document, you can see that a higher amount of weightage is provided towards your P1 syllabus, because both these, the first two pages highlight P1 related syllabus areas, and this extends on to page number 4 as well. And finally, you see some parts of the F1 syllabus being tested at this examination. So there's a lot which you need to cover. That's why I said, if you want to cover all these syllabus areas when conducting your preparations, when attempting mock exams, you can't do so by attempting just 2 or 3 mock exams. So you have to be conversant with variance analysis, various different variances, then what appears under budgeting and control environment. All these things will be tested at the examination. Costing and pricing, various different costing methods, various different pricing methods, then different forecasting techniques, how to deal with risk and uncertainty, and risk attitudes based on risk attitudes of different decision makers, what type of decisions they'd arrive at, then short-term decision-making tools, which appear under your P1 as well as E1 syllabi, as well as performance measurement concerning KPIs. And when it comes to KPIs, you need to consider the internal dynamics of Halfpenny, because there are certain elements or certain issues which are highlighted within the pre-scene, which we can see when we consider the internal dynamics of Halfpenny. And based on these things, KPIs will be thrown at you. That's exactly why I said it's essential that you attempt exam standard and at the same time pre-scene specific mock exams. So that's your P1 syllabus. And when it comes to financial reporting or your F1 syllabus, all IASs which appear within your F1 study text will be tested: IAS 2, IAS 7, IAS 10, and IAS 16, as well as IFRS 5 and IFRS 16. And taxation will be tested at the examination along with working capital management, because as the finance officer, you are at the lowest level of the organization. As I mentioned in the first webinar, you are involved with implementing decisions. So when implementing decisions, you are supposed to manage the short-term cash flows within your organization. So all these elements will be tested at the exam. So as I mentioned earlier, if you want to cover all these elements and be prepared to face any of these syllabus areas at your examination, you have to make up your mind to attempt 6 mock exams. If you are planning to attempt just 2 or 3 mock exams, just like what you did in your previous session, then you will be definitely testing your luck at your real examination. And the second problem is students using an inappropriate answering technique. 99% of the students out there, right after reading through the scenario, they'd start typing answers in paragraph form, which is a killer, because when you start writing answers in paragraph form, you are not spending some time to think, because at the exam, you are supposed to determine or stipulate some time towards planning, because if you don't plan, if you jump the gun, when you start writing your fully fledged answer in paragraph form, halfway through your answer, if you feel that your answer is inaccurate or your answer is headed in the wrong direction, or if you feel that your answer is not aligned with the requirement, what happens? You'd have to delete the entire answer and start from scratch. When this happens, you know for a fact that you have lost some time, you have wasted some time. When this is the case, your brain will always keep reminding you of the fact that you lost a lot of time. This leads to stress. Stress leads to brain freeze. So if you have attempted the OCS exam previously, you know what I'm talking about. If you encounter brain freeze, that is because of you panicking, because panic leads to stress, and extreme levels of stress leads to brain freeze. And whenever you are experiencing brain freeze, although you want to think, you can't. Although you want to read through the question, you can't. So you are stuck in one place. And sometimes you'd feel extremely cold, or sometimes you'd sweat profusely. So this indicates the fact that you are stressed a lot. Why are you stressed? Because of sticking to an inappropriate answering technique. So in today's session, I'm going to teach you a specific answering technique if you stick to this answering technique, you will never run out of time at your examination. So by implementing the answering technique, which you are going to learn in a little while, you will structure your answers properly. You are taking steps to make sure that you're developing logical answers. If you provide well-structured and logical answers, you will get full marks at your examination. And at the same time, by sticking to our answering technique, you are taking steps towards managing your time appropriately. So if you were a student who ended up typing out the answer in paragraph form right after reading through the scenario without spending some time to plan, then you need to avoid this mistake this time. If not, you'd end up failing once more. And not practicing mocks under simulated exam conditions is a problem as well, because when attempting mock exams, I've dealt with students who will attempt, let's assume one individual is attempting mock number 1. So a student attempts the first section of mock number 1 today, the second section of mock number 1 tomorrow, the third section of mock number 1 day after tomorrow, and likewise. But at your exam, you don't have breaks in between sections. Instead, you have to attempt the entire examination in one go within 3 hours. So you cannot take breaks between sections. So you need to practice under similar conditions. When attempting mock exams, you can't take breaks. If that is the case, you will struggle at your real examination, because if you look at how our human minds work, our attention span is there for just 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, the brain will ask us to take a break. That is when at office, there's a tendency for you to move away from your cubicle, move away from your computer, have a chat with your friends. If you're into smoking, you might smoke. Some individuals might have a coffee or some type of a beverage. So you do all these things. You can do all these things at office to take a break, but at your exam, you can't do so. So you'd be extremely comfortable with section number 1, but from section number 2 onwards, fatigue sets in, which leads to stress. And by the time you are in the last 2 sections, sections 3 and 4, you will be exposed to extreme levels of stress. So it's best that you encounter similar situations when attempting the mock exams, rather than facing the problem for the first time at your real examination. So you have to make up your mind to practice mocks under simulated exam conditions. That is why we have invested a lot of financial and non-financial resources with the intention of replicating the Pearson VUE system on which you'd attempt your real examination. So in a little while, you will see what this exam platform is all about. It's essential that you get your bearings pertinent to the technicalities with regards to the Pearson VUE system, because when you are attempting your real exam within the Pearson VUE system for the first time, you will struggle a bit. When you're struggling, it leads to stress. You'd end up wasting a lot of time. So in order to avoid all these situations, we have developed the exact replica of the Pearson system. And when you attempt mock exams under exam conditions, you are taking steps to master your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. When you master these techniques before the exam, during the exam, you will develop well-structured answers. You will never run out of time. And towards the end of your exam, you will comfortably manage your stress levels. And lack of technical knowledge is a problem at this exam, because as I mentioned earlier, 80% of the questions are intended to test your theoretical or conceptual knowledge. So if you have knowledge gaps, especially concerning your F1 and P1 syllabi, definitely chances of you passing this exam becomes extremely low. So if, for instance, when conducting preparations, I've encountered students who would be conversant with IAS 16 and IFRS 16 leases, and students tend to forget about the remaining IASs and IFRSs. This is a killer, because, for instance, in your variant, if there's no mention about IAS 16 or IFRS 16, instead, in your variant, mention it was made about IFRS 5 and IAS 10, then you'd end up losing a lot of marks. So when conducting preparations, you can't skip any topics. I've seen students doing this. especially if there's a tough area such as variance analysis or linear programming or questions to do with multi-product break-even point analysis. I've seen hordes of students leaving out these type of syllabus areas when conducting preparations because you just need to achieve 80 marks out of 150. As a percentage, it's 54%. So students think, okay, if I get this type of a question which is based on linear programming, for instance, I can just disregard it and score in the other subtasks. What if in one single subtask you get linear programming, and in the other section you get something like multi-product break-even analysis? If that is the case, you end up losing a lot of marks. So the wisest thing to do is not to disregard any syllabus areas. That's why we have developed this document, so that you can keep tabs about your preparations after attempting each mock exam. So don't leave out any syllabus areas or theoretical concepts. Instead, your job is to be conversant with how each of these syllabus areas can be tested at your examination, and how you should develop answers concerning each of these syllabus areas highlighted within this document. So that's a problem which you need to avoid, and the easiest way to avoid this problem is to attempt the 6 mock exams which we have developed, because when developing these 6 mock exams, we have made sure to cover 72 subtasks in total. And when you cover 72 subtasks, you are taking steps to cover all these syllabus areas highlighted within this document. So when you have done 72 subtasks, when some other student has done just 15 to 25 subtasks, when you have done 72 subtasks, you know for a fact that you have covered the entire syllabus, you are conversant with the entire syllabus, you know how each syllabus area is tested. If that is the case, you will pass for sure, because there won't be any surprises at your real examination. And I've seen shortcomings in application of knowledge, especially with regards to suggesting KPIs, because in all other syllabus areas, your technical knowledge is tested. But when it comes to suggesting KPIs, you need to think in terms of any type of shortcoming which is highlighted within the scenario, or you need to think in terms of what appears within your pre-seen document. So for instance, if you are supposed to suggest sales KPIs, you need to have somewhat of an idea of how we conduct sales within Halfpenny. So we are, as you know, we are involved with B2B sales. So as a company which is involved with B2B sales, the type of KPIs such a company uses will be totally different to a company which is involved with B2C sales. So that's why your application comes into play. That's why you need to be conversant with what appears within your pre-seen document. So first things first, in order to get your application right, you have to be conversant with what appears within the pre-seen. So that's why we have developed an annotated pre-seen. And in addition to the annotated pre-seen, we have developed a pre-seen mind map, which makes your life easy when it comes to memorizing the most important points which is highlighted within your pre-seen document. So by being conversant with what appears within your pre-seen, you can avoid this shortcoming. That's the first step. Then the second step is to make sure that you consider the exact information presented in each scenario or reference material when developing answers, especially concerning KPI related answers. So you will understand how to do this properly when you attempt our 6 mock exams, because within our 6 mock exams, there are hordes of KPIs which are totally based on what appears within your pre-seen. So when you attempt these 6 mock exams, you'd know how to focus on each KPI related question, because we have covered multiple KPIs tied to product diversification, because within your pre-seen there's a hint about us diversifying our product range in the future. That is what we have done in the past. That's what our board intends to achieve in the future. That's why we have a separate product development director as well. So I've included product diversification related KPIs. Then we might be opting for an international expansion. Then You need to utilize certain KPIs to measure the success of such an initiative, and how to deal with large and small retail sales teams, how to keep track of their performance, because there are two sales teams within our organization which are dealing with large retailers as well as small retailers. So focused on each department, expect to suggest KPIs. Then there's a separate product development team, production, distribution and delivery, raw material storage, machine maintenance, facilities maintenance, canteen. All these are various different departments within our organization. So focused on each of these departments, you should have the capability to suggest KPIs. Then how to deal with retailers, how to measure performance of each of our retailers, both small and large retailers, and how to deal with raw material and packaging material suppliers, distribution agents, and KPIs tied to digital marketing initiatives, tracking the performance of digital marketing initiatives carried out by our company. And if you are introducing an app, then how to keep track of the performance of this app, as well as non-financial KPIs will be tested at your exam. And we have made sure to cover all these KPIs within the 6 mocks which we have developed to make sure that you have a strong understanding of how to apply the knowledge which you have gained via your syllabus areas, via your pre-scene, and by considering the information presented to you within each and every scenario. And another problem is relying on past exam variants. As I mentioned earlier, you can't rely on past papers or past exam variants and pass this exam. Why? Because these past exam variants are based on a totally different pre-scene document. So the variants are totally aligned with each and every pre-scene. So when you conduct your preparations focused on a totally different pre-scene, then you might be misdirected. And the way in which certain syllabus areas can be tested will be different across pre-scene documents. So because of that, rather than wasting time, rather than trying to figure out the logic of each answer by your own, it's best that you invest on exam standard and pre-scene specific mock exams, which cuts out a lot of unnecessary time wastage. Then you are assured that you are conducting your preparations which are focused on your current pre-scene, rather than having to decrypt what appeared within a previous pre-scene. Because if you are to decrypt past variant information, the logic of answers which appeared within past variants, you have to be extremely thorough with the pre-scene document which is relevant for each of these variants. So you don't have time to go through a different variant. Instead, focus your attention towards a different pre-scene. Rather, you don't have time to go through a different pre-scene and then go through the logic of the answers which appears within each variant. Instead, focus your attention towards the current pre-scene and mocks which are developed based on the current pre-scene. And lack of evaluation is a problem, or lack of revision is a problem. There are a set of students who think that, okay, I will attempt all mock exams and that's enough. That is not going to be enough, because when attempting your mock exams, as I mentioned earlier, your objective is to practice your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. However, after practicing these techniques, you need to definitely conduct your own revision. And when it comes to revision, you need to do something called redeveloping answer plans. So you are supposed to attempt the mock exam under exam conditions. That is when you are mastering your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. Once you are done and dusted with it, then you are supposed to go through the answer plans which we have shared with you. This is when you are realizing for yourself what you should have covered within your answers. This is when you are realizing whether your answers are accurate or not. And after understanding the logic behind each answer, after learning the logic behind each answer, after understanding what you should have covered in your answers, then you are supposed to test your knowledge by redeveloping answer plans on your own. After you have redeveloped answer plans, compare your fresh answer plans to TCS's to figure out whether you still see certain shortcomings within your answers. So without revising, you are not going to pass this exam. Just because you attempt our 6 mock exams, you won't pass, because when attempting mocks, you will understand how each syllabus area is tested, but you won't know for sure how to develop answers concerning each syllabus area. So you are, when conducting revision, you are doing just that. You are taking steps to make sure that you know which points you should have covered concerning each and every question which you saw within each and every mock exam. So conducting revision is essential to make your life easy. We are sharing answer plans with you. We are not just sharing suggested answers which goes on for pages and pages. When you go through long suggested answers, you are not in a position to understand the logic behind each answer, the most important points. So to make your life easy, we are sharing a mind map of each suggested answer, or the answer plans of each suggested answer. So why are we sharing this? With the intention of ensuring that you know which points you need to cover under each syllabus area. After learning this, you need to test and see for yourself whether you are capable of mentioning the same type of points when conducting revision. If that is the case, you need not worry about passing this examination. So you need to evaluate your answers or conduct revision on your own. If not, you can't pass this examination. And non-adherence to a study plan is another problem, because I know for a fact most students end up conducting preparations in the last 2 or 3 weeks. When you conduct preparations in the last 2 or 3 weeks, yes, you will have time to attempt all 6 mocks, but you won't have time to conduct revision. And as I mentioned earlier, if you don't revise, if you do not redevelop answer plans, you cannot pass this exam. So these are the shortcomings which you need to avoid. And don't worry about a study plan, because we have already shared a study plan with you. And if you feel that you need a personalized study plan, always get in touch with me. I will share a personalized study plan with you after having a chat with you. All right, so these are the common reasons which leads to a failure, and focused on each issue, I suggested recommendations which ensures that you are taking steps to avoid these issues. If you avoid these issues, you will pass for sure in the upcoming exam. All right, so having said that, let's move on to the second part of today's webinar, in which I'm going to teach you answering technique. So first things first, there's a format in which you need to develop your answers. So let me quickly show you how you should present your answers. For each subtask, you need to come up with a main heading, which is in bold and underline format. So if you look at section number 2 of mock exam 1, you can see that there are multiple subtasks. So there's subtask A, subtask B, as well as subtask C. So there are 3 subtasks within this question or within this section. And if there are 3 subtasks, you need to come up with 3 main headings. So you need to develop a main heading per subtask. So if in a certain section, if there are just 2 subtasks, in your answer, you need to have 2 main headings which are in bold and underlined format. Or if within a certain section there are 3 subtasks, then in your answer, you need to have 3 main headings, again in bold and underlined format. So you can see that I've come up with 1 main heading, and this is the second main heading, and this is the third main heading. All right, main headings should be in bold and underlined format. And you can use subheadings as well. If within a section, if you feel that you need to further fraction out the answer, then you are invited to utilize subheadings. And if you are doing so, the subheadings should be in bold format. So if you look at this answer, there's a main heading which is in bold and underlined format, but under this main heading, I've utilized 1, 2, and 3, as well as 4 subheadings. And if you're utilizing subheadings, it should be in bold format. All right, so headings per subtask, and each main heading should be in bold and underlined format, and subheadings should be in bold format. And when developing answers, your final answer should be in paragraph form, and each paragraph should consist of 2 to 4 line sentences. So that's exactly what you can see here. Throughout this answer, you can see that I've developed answers in paragraph form. You can't see any bullet points or single lined sentences, and each paragraph goes on for 2 to 4 lines. That's exactly what you are expected to do. So that's the second point. And with regards to managing your time, you know for a fact each section carries a time allocation of 45 minutes. So you need to know how you should utilize these 45 minutes. So the first 5 minutes should be dedicated towards reading through the scenario and the reference material. And once you're done with it, don't jump into typing your fully fledged answer in paragraph form. Instead, spend some time to plan. That is exactly what you'd do at office. After receiving an email which carries a lot of information, what are you expected to do? You are supposed to structure your response. When structuring your response, you are trying to figure out whether you are addressing all the requirements which were highlighted within the email which you just received. So similarly, at your exam, especially given the fact that the examiner is trying to replicate a real life corporate environment, you are supposed to plan your answer taking 20 minutes of your time. And when it comes to planning your answer, you need to develop something like this, which is known as an answer plan. In a little while, I will explain how you should develop such an answer plan. So you need to plan out your answer in a concise or precise manner. This is your mind map actually. And once you have a mind map or an answer plan at your disposal, then utilize your remaining time, which is the remaining 20 minutes, to expand your answer plan in paragraph form. So your final answer should be in paragraph form. However, you are expected to, right after reading through the scenario, you are expected to plan out your answer in a concise manner, in a short manner. For that, you are expected to spend 20 minutes of your time. So within this 20 minutes of your time, you are not supposed to develop the answer plan focused on one single subtask. Instead, you need to cover all subtasks within 20 minutes. You need to develop the answer plan concerning all subtasks. So within a section, if there are 2 subtasks, then you need to come up with 2 answer plans. And if there are 3 subtasks, you need to come up with 3 answer plans within 20 minutes. This is not going to be easy because you are learning this for the first time. And when you are trying to implement it for the first time, you will definitely run out of time. Take it from me, although I'm asking you to read through the scenario within 5 minutes, when you are doing it for the first time, you might take 10 to 15 minutes to really understand what appears within the scenario. That's quite all right. Rather than wasting time to read at your real examination, it's best that you're wasting time right now, because when you waste time right now, you can take steps to overcome your issues or improve your reading speed. Similarly, I'm asking you to develop an answer plan within 20 minutes, but when you are trying to do it for the first time, you will take 40 to 45 minutes. That's quite normal. You will definitely run out of time. That's okay. Keep practicing this technique over and over across the 6 mocks which we have developed. If you master this technique, this answering technique, you will never run out of time at your real examination. So the only way to manage your time and to come up with well-structured, high-quality answers is to practice this answering technique. So as I mentioned earlier, when you are implementing it for the first time, you will not be able to stick to these guidelines. Don't get demotivated. Keep practicing, because by the time you are in mock 3 or 4, definitely you will see a significant improvement. So in mock number 1, when you took 45 minutes to develop the answer plan, in mock number 3, you will see that you can develop answer plans within 30 minutes. And by the time you are in mocks 5 and 6, you will know for a fact that you are capable of developing answer plans within just 20 minutes. So through practice, you can achieve this state where you can develop answer plans within 20 minutes. And if you are capable of developing answer plans within 20 minutes, then you have ample time to expand your answers or flesh out the answer skeletons, thereby developing your fully fledged answer or your final answer in paragraph form. So when it comes to typing, you are not trying to multitask because you have already planned out your answer. So when it comes to typing, it makes your life easy. When you know what you're expected to type, you can easily expand your answer plan. And looking at the typing speed, you should have the capability of typing 20 words per minute. So you need to check your typing speed. There are so many platforms out there on Google on which you can check your typing speed. And if your typing speed is substandard, there are games out there, gamified versions which can be utilized to improve your typing speed. If not, simply purchase your weekly newspaper and start typing out articles of your weekly newspaper on your laptop or your computer, because the only way to improve your typing speed is to, again, by practicing. Just like you are supposed to master your answering and time management via practice, if your typing speed is substandard, you need to start typing practice. That's the only way to improve your typing speed. And when developing answers, you need to understand how many marks are allocated for each and every subtask. And if you had gone through the mock exams, you would have seen that under each subtask, there's a weightage provided. Subtask A carries a 40% weightage, subtask B 30, and subtask C 30%. So this weightage gives us an indication about mark allocations. When you know how many marks are dedicated for each subtask, then you can easily understand how many points you need to include under each and every subtask. In a little while, I will explain how you are supposed to do this in a practical sense. So you have to determine mark allocations based on the weightages provided. And do not spend time on formatting, such as working on paragraph alignment and whatnot. The only type of formatting which you need to focus on is with regards to developing a main heading in bold and underline format per subtask, and answering in paragraph form, which consists of 2 to 4 line sentences. Other than that, don't worry about any other type of formatting. And always remember, you are getting marks for the quality of your answer, quality of the points which you have highlighted within your answer. You are not getting any marks for the quantity or the length of your answer. So that is why I've seen tutors out there talking about a word limit or a word count which you need to achieve to gain a certain amount of marks. This is never going to be the case. When marking your paper, the examiner or the invigilator is not going to look at the length of your answer. Instead, the invigilator is going to look at the quality of your answer. That is why you need to master the answer planning technique. Answer plans play a key role when developing answer plans, or when dedicating a certain amount of time to plan. You are taking steps to structure your answer. You are trying to figure out whether you are developing answers which are aligned with the requirement, whether you have brought in the theoretical concepts which you have learned via P1, F1, and E1 syllabi in the most successful manner. And if necessary, you are trying to determine whether you can bring some pre-seen info with the intention of enhancing the quality of your answer. So you need to plan. Why? Because when you are planning, you are trying to ensure that you develop a high quality, well-structured answer. Because at the exam, it's not about the word count, it's always about the quality. So that's why it's essential that you master this answering technique. Okay, so when it comes to developing an answer plan, there are a certain set of steps which you need to adhere to. So let's look at what these steps are. First things first, you have to read the scenario. So your knowledge is tested via practical scenarios which are thrown at you. So you would see 1 or 2 paragraphs under each scenario, followed by a requirement. And there's another short paragraph followed by a requirement, and another paragraph followed by a requirement. In addition to these things, you will gain access to reference material. Within this section, there are 2 different reference material which shares additional information about what appears within each and every scenario. So you need to read through all these information within 5 minutes, which is not too easy. When you're doing it for the first time, you will take a lot of time, but with practice, you will gather the capability to read the entire scenario within 5 minutes. Even if you take 7 minutes, I don't mind, as long as you don't move beyond 7 minutes. And once you have read through the scenario, once you have understood the information presented to you, you are supposed to reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. So there are 3 requirements in here. This requirement is quite long, and when you are operating in a time pressured environment, when you have to go through an extended requirement, you would have to keep reading this over and over to gain a clear understanding of what you are expected to achieve. And whilst developing the answer plan, when you have to refer to a long requirement, you'd end up reading this requirement again and again, because whilst developing the answer plan, I'm going to highlight these things in a little while, but right now I'll talk about it. When you are developing the answer plan, you are expected to always cross-check with the requirement to see whether you are developing an answer which is 100% aligned with the requirement. So when you are expected to cross-check, when you have to read through these type of extended requirements, you will be exposed to complexities, especially when you are operating in a time pressured environment. So in order to avoid these complexities, the best practice is to reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. So let's see how you should achieve this. So I've highlighted how you should reiterate the requirements. So we are in section number 2. The requirement goes as, therefore, could you please give me a brief explanation about the criteria for capitalization of expenditure and the treatment of each of these expenses in the financial statements? Please refer to the information which I've attached within this email. See table 1 in preparing your response. So this requirement carries 2 main parts. The first part is to explain the criteria for capitalization of expenditure. And the second part is to highlight how to treat these expenses within our financial statements. So I've simplified the requirement or reiterated the requirement in a simpler manner by saying that by stating capitalization of expenses and impact on financial statements. So I've simplified the requirement. When you have access to a simplified requirement, you are achieving 2 objectives. Objective number 1 is you are gaining a clear understanding of the requirement, which is essential. And at the same time, whilst developing the answer plan, I said that you should check or cross-check with the requirement and see whether you are developing an answer which is totally aligned with the requirement. So when you have a simplified requirement in a jiffy, you are in a position to do this in a successful manner. So rather than having to, whilst developing the answer plan, rather than having to read through this entire requirement, it makes your life easy when you have a simplified requirement, which goes as capitalization of expenses. That's the first part of your question. And the second part of your question is to highlight how these expenses are going to impact our financial statements. So similarly, let's move on to the second subtask. Describe the length of depreciation of the new cutter blade. Further, if we decide to depreciate it for 5 years and later realize that we can use it for 10, how can we deal with the change in useful life in our financial statements? Again, this subtask carries 2 main parts. So that's why my simplified requirement carry 2 parts as well. Extending useful economic life from 5 to 10 years. That's the first part of your answer. And then you have to explain how it will impact our financial statements. So having a simplified requirement at your disposal helps you. It gives you a clearer picture of the requirement, and at the same time, you can easily cross-reference whilst developing your answer plan. And the third requirement goes as recommend and justify 4 KPIs to evaluate the performance of each team and explain how to calculate each KPI. So recommend and justify, I've mentioned 3 KPIs, but you are supposed to highlight 4 KPIs concerning the retail sales team. Why the retail sales team? Because as per this scenario, we are poised to measure the performance of our retail sales team. So I've simplified it as recommend and justify 4 KPIs concerning our retail sales team. You are also supposed to highlight how to calculate each KPI. All right, so that's how you should simplify each requirement. So that's your second step. And once you're done with it, then come up with your headings and subheadings. So if there are 3 subtasks, you need to come up with 3 main subheadings. So within this answer plan, you can see it. If we move on to, since we are basing our evaluations on section number 2, let's go to section number 2. So you can see that there are 1, 2, and 3 main headings. Okay, so that's your third step. And the fourth step is to develop the answer plan, taking a maximum of 20 minutes per 20 minutes for all subtasks. So when developing the answer plan, you need to develop something like this, utilizing 20 minutes of your time. You will struggle with it when you're doing it for the first time, but you'll be totally fine with our answering technique when you, by the time you are in mocks 5 and 6. So that's your fourth step. And when developing the answer plan, you need to understand how many points you should include under each subtask. So the only way to understand how many points you need to include is by understanding the mark allocations. And how can you determine the mark allocations? Based on the weightages provided. Okay, so as you can see, there are 3 weightages. Subtask A carries a 40% weightage, subtask C carries a 30% weightage, and subtask C again carries a 30% weightage. So these weightages give us an indication about mark allocations. All right, so that's exactly what you can see in here. Based on these weightages, I've worked out the mark allocations. So as you know, each section carries 37.5 marks in total. So 40% of 37.5 marks come up to 15 marks in total. All right, so that's how you are supposed to determine the mark allocations. So each section carries 37.5 marks in total. So 40% of 37.5 marks come up to 15 marks in total. That's what I've highlighted in here. So in order to gain 15 marks, how many points should you come up with? Each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks. All right, so each valid point carry 2 or 3 marks. So if you are to score 15 marks, you need to come up with 5 to 7 valid points within your answer. So 15 divided by 3, assuming that each valid point carries 3 marks, 15 divided by 3 comes up to 5 points. And if you assume that each valid point carries just 2 marks, 15 divided by 2 comes up to something like 7.5. So you can, safely say that if you develop 5 to 7 valid points, then you are poised to gain the most amount of marks, or the full marks, which are dedicated for each subtask. And looking at subtask B, the weightage provided is 30%. So 30% of 37.5 marks come up to 11 marks in total. So in order to gain 11 marks, you need to come up with 3 to 5 valid points within your answer. So that's how you are supposed to determine the points which you need to include under each subtask. When you do so, when you stick to this methodology, you are taking steps to develop answers which are 100% aligned with mark allocations. Therefore, you are ensuring that your answers are not too short or too long. Instead, your answers are exactly aligned with the mark allocations. So we are not thinking in terms of the word count. Instead, we are thinking in terms of the quality of your answer, or the number of answer points you need to include within your answer. So that's what you are expected to do. So determine mark allocations based on the weightages, and based on it, determine how many points you need to include within your answer, given the fact that each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks. And when developing this answer plan, do it on the answer screen itself. Do not use your scratch pad. Why am I saying this? Because let's assume for a certain subtask, you plan to include 9 points, but in your final answer, there's only 8 points. Why have you missed out on one single point, which you should have included, which you actually included in your answer plan, but it does not appear in your final answer? Why is this the case? Because when you're shifting between 2 answer screens, the scratch pad as well as your answer screen, you might end up missing out certain points which you intended to include. This happens when you're operating in a time pressured environment. If you're doing this exam leisurely, you can always check whether you have covered all points which you intended to include within your answer by checking your answer plan and the suggested checking your answer plan and your final answer in paragraph form. But at your exam, you can't do so. So the only way to make sure that you include all points which you intended to include in your answer is to develop the answer plan on the answer screen itself. And when you develop the answer plan on the answer screen, the next step is to expand your answer plan in paragraph form, taking 20 minutes of your time. When it comes to expanding, you will never miss out any of the points which appears within your answer screen, because it's just a matter of expanding point number 1, then expanding point 2, point 3, point 4, and likewise. So when you are sticking to this methodology, you will not miss out on any points which appears within your answer plan. And having to shift between two answer screens will expose you to complexities. So don't utilize your scratch pad. Instead, develop the answer plan on your answer screen itself. And when it comes to expanding the answer plan, you are supposed to take 20 minutes of your time concerning all subtasks. So when doing so, develop a paragraph per answer point. So if you decided to include 7 main points or 7 valid points for a certain subtask, and if you included 7 valid points within your answer plan, then in your final answer, there should be 7 different paragraphs. And in a certain subtask, if you plan to include just 5 points, then in your final answer, there should be 5 different paragraphs. And always remember to separate your paragraphs. Don't write the entire answer in 1 or 2 paragraphs, because when this is the case, the marker will have to spend some additional time to figure out how many points you have included within your answer. Instead, when you provide answers like this, the examiner can easily count the number of paragraphs and based on it determine how many points you have included. And out of these points, the examiner can figure out which are accurate and which are not, and easily share marks with you. Whereas if you write everything together, the examiner will have to spend some additional time to figure out how many points you have included, and out of these points, which are accurate and which are inaccurate, and based on it calculate the mark allocations, which is not going to be easy, because know for a fact, although you are taking 3 hours of your time to attempt the entire mock exam, the marker is only taking something between 7 to 10 minutes to mark the entire paper. And the marker is not just marking your paper, he or she is marking hordes and hordes of answer sheets. So when this is the case, it's good to be in the good books of your marker. For instance, if you end up getting 78 marks and if you're short by just 2 marks, if you're in the good books of your marker, the marker will definitely give you 2 additional marks, because no one wants to fail a student. Okay, so that's why it's essential that you listen to your CIMA examiner. The CIMA examiner wants to develop answers in this manner, which assists your marker as well. So it's better to be in the good books of your marker rather than ending up losing marks by making the marker's life hard. All right, so this is your answering technique. You might think that there's a lot. Yes, there is, but this is quite simple if you get your bearings with it. So the only way to get your bearings with the answering and time management technique is to practice these techniques when attempting the 6 mock exams which we have developed for you. All right, so then let's have a look at how your exam platform looks like. So when you start your real examination, you will see the section numbers and how many subtasks appear within each and every section, along with the weightages provided. And once you click on the begin button, you will be directed to section number 1. I've taken this screenshot from section number 4. Please disregard it. Once you start your mock paper, you will start from section number 1. And within you, on the top, you'd see the section number. And on top of that, you'd see a timer which runs down from 45 minutes to 0. And you will see a section number as well. We are in section number 4. So that's why out of 4 sections, it says 4. But if you are in section number 1, it says first section out of 4 sections. And you will see 4 different buttons. Calculator button, which gives you access to a calculator. Highly unlikely that you'd have to utilize a calculator because you are not expected to do major calculations at this examination. Then you'd gain access to the scratch pad. whilst reading through the scenario, if you want to summarize or highlight an important point, you can do so via the scratchpad. And via the reference material button, you'd gain access to additional material or the reference material. So this is your scenario and your 3 requirements. And as I mentioned earlier, you'd gain access to additional reference material. You'd see all these things. You'd have access to all these things by clicking on this button. You also have access to your pre-seen document at your examination. So after you have read through all these information, once you click on next, you'd be directed to your answer screen. So within your answer screen, again, you'd see the section number as well as the timer running out, and you'd see the calculator, scratchpad, reference material, and pre-seen buttons. So right after reading through the scenario, your next step is to develop the answer plan. When developing the answer plan, I said that do it on the answer screen itself. So type your answer plan in here. Why am I asking you to type your answer plan here? Because if you click on the reference material button, a pop-up will appear to the right of your screen. And via this pop-up, you can gain access to your pre-seen document as well as the section or the task. So you need not always go back and see what your requirement or the task is, because there's a pop-up. Once you click on the pre-seen button, within this pre-seen pop-up rather, you'd see a task tab, a tab which is named task. And within this, you will gain access to the same scenario and the requirement. So you need not, shift between pages. You can easily refer to all the information onto the right of your screen and onto the left of your screen. Develop the answer plan. When this is the case, you can easily scroll through this pop-up and see and gain the information which you need. Similarly, you'd gain access to the reference material on the answer screen itself by clicking on the reference material button. So a pop-up will appear to the right of your screen. So this makes your life easy when it comes to developing the answer plan on the left of your screen. So don't utilize the scratchpad. When doing so, you will have to deal with multiple pop-ups. So, it leads to complexities. So avoid all complexities. You can easily develop the answer plan to the left of your screen because your answer plan is not extremely long. It's in a short, structured manner. So you can develop it onto the left whilst having access to the reference material, your pre-seen, and the task or the requirements information onto the right of your screen then and there. And once you're done with your section, you need to click on the submit answer button, or else if you run out of time, you would be automatically directed to the next section or the next section of your examination. So once you click on the submit answer button, you would be directed to the next section, which is section number 2. And when you are in section number 2, as you can see, there is no previous button, which indicates the fact that you can't go back to section number 1 when you are in section number 2. That is exactly why I said in webinar number 1 that you need to think in terms of managing 4 slots of 45 minutes each rather than trying to manage 3 hours at a stretch, because you can't go back to a previous section. If you're in section number 2, you can't go back to section number 1. That is why you can't see a previous button. So that's how your exam platform works. And we at TCS, this is exactly how the Pearson VUE system works. And we have created the exact replica of the same system to make sure that you are capable of practicing mock exams under real exam conditions, which is the best way to improve your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. All right. So having said that, before I explain how to implement these answering and time management techniques in a practical sense by taking you through one of our mock exams, let me quickly tell you what we offer at TCS. So I'm on the OCS page. Click on this button to check our free content or create a free user account. Once you have created a free user account, you'd see an access dashboard button. Click on it and click on my courses. And in front of OCS free, click on access content. And once you have done so, you would gain access to the recorded versions of the weekly webinars and workshops we conduct. Then you would gain access to free study material, which consists of the pre-seen mind map, which you saw a while back, the syllabus coverage document, and the answer plan of mock exam 1. Then you would gain access to mock exam 1, its questions and the suggested answers within the exam platform itself. And via the exams tab, once you click on OCS mock 1, even on the free content, you gain access to our exam platform on which you can attempt mock number 1 under real exam conditions. So after learning answering and time management techniques, after this webinar is done, I urge you to attempt mock number 1 via our exam platform, thereby practicing the answering and time management techniques which you just learned. So all these resources are provided free of charge via our student dashboard. So click on this button and create a free user account. On the other hand, if you are interested in investing on our paid content, click on this button and check our sample material before you invest on paid content. And if you are yet to join our OCS WhatsApp discussion forum, click on this button and join it. Via this WhatsApp group, you would gain access to information pertinent to the commencement dates and times of the weekly webinars and workshops. Along with it, we will be sharing hordes of free resources with you. Also, if you have any questions or concerns, you can always get them addressed instantaneously via this WhatsApp group. And talking about what we offer 2 packages, the essential course and the value course. The essential course is designed for those who have completed their OTQs. So if you have completed your OTQ exams, you have covered the entire syllabus, you already know your theory. It's simply a matter of mastering your application skills. So under the essential course, you'd gain access to the recordings of all weekly webinars and workshops, 3 mock exams with suggested answers. All this time I was talking about attempting 6 mock exams. Yes, but if you have already learned your theory, thereby passing your OTQ exams, you know how each syllabus area will be tested and what's highlighted within each pillar. It's simply a matter of improving your application skills. So just attempting 3 mock exams will do. It will ensure that you significantly improve your application skills. And also you'd gain access to the pre-scene analysis videos, 4 videos in total. By watching these 4 videos, you'd gain an in-depth understanding of what appears within your pre-scene document. You'd gain access to the annotated pre-scene industry analysis and financial analysis slides. Let me quickly show you what these resources look like. So the annotated pre-scene looks like this. As you can see on top of your normal pre-scene document, we have come up with tutor annotations with the intention of summarizing the entire pre-scene. So this ensures that you understand the most important points which appear within your pre-scene document. So your pre-scene goes on for 25 to 30 pages. You won't gain a good understanding of what you should focus on by going through this entire pre-scene document. So it makes your life easy when you have access to summarized information. On top of these summaries, we have also highlighted the probable exam scenarios which can be tested at the exam based on hints shared by the CIMA examiner via the pre-scene document. And connected to these possible exam scenarios, we have highlighted the probable syllabus areas which can be tested as well. And when developing our mock exams, we have made sure to cover all these exam scenarios and syllabus areas. All right. And talking about the financial analysis slides, we have, evaluated each financial statement in depth, yet making sure to keep things simple so that you gain a good understanding of what appears within each financial statement. So we have evaluated the SOPL, the SOFP, and the statement of cash flows. And at the very end, we have conducted a ratio analysis. Again, we have evaluated each ratio in depth to make sure that you gain a good understanding of the financial standing of your chosen company. And similarly, we have developed a set of slides thereby conducting an industry analysis. These slides are divided into 4 main parts. In the first part, we have defined the industry. And in the second and third parts, we have highlighted about the competitive landscape and industry trends. Based on these information, scenarios will be thrown at you at your real exam. And towards the very end, concerning two real-life companies. We have explained how two real-life companies operate within your chosen industry, with the intention of making sure that you gain a clearer understanding of how typical companies operate within your chosen industry. All right, so these are the resources on offer under the essential course, and you'd also gain access to the top 10 likely issue slides, which indicate the most prominent syllabus areas which can be tested at the exam. You'd gain access to a case study familiarization kit. Once you have read through this kit, within 10 to 15 minutes, you will gain an in-depth understanding about the technicalities behind your OCS exam. And via the essential course, you'd have access to a tutor-managed live chat as well. So the essential course is priced at £199. And talking about the value course, the value course is intended for those who are coming through the exemption routes such as FLP and those who had failed the OCS exam previously. So both these sets of students have the same problem. There are gaps in theory knowledge and application. So we have made sure to cover the entire syllabus across the 6 mocks which we have developed to ensure that you understand how each syllabus area is tested so that you overcome your knowledge gaps, and at the same time to make sure that you understand how to work on your application skills. So on top of what appears within the essential course, you'd gain access to the 6 mock exams with suggested answers, which are intended to cover the entire syllabus. Also, you'd gain access to OTQ revision cards. So after attempting each mock exam, if you feel that you struggled with a certain theoretical concept, don't refer back to your old notes or your bulky study texts. Simply refer to our OTQ revision cards. In a jiffy, you are in a position to brush up your knowledge concerning what's highlighted within your E1, F1, and P1 syllabi. And you'd also gain access to the online mock exam platform, which you saw a while back, which is the best way to master your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. And also, you'd gain access to answer plans of all 6 mock exams, which is the most crucial tool out there to conduct your revision in a stress-free environment. So the value course is priced at £499, which can be paid in 2 installments of £249 each, or you can pay in full. If so, you'd end up saving £100. If so, the price is just £399. So you can click on either of these buttons and invest on your preferred package by paying via card. All right, so having said that, let me quickly take you to the OCS study plan to see what we expected to achieve within this week. So week number 3 is the most hectic one, because if you look at week number 3, you are supposed to dedicate 12 hours of study time. However, from next week onwards, it's simply a matter of dedicating 7 to 9 hours of study time per week. All right, so within this week, why should you dedicate 12 hours? Because you are supposed to attempt 2 mock exams. So after learning answering and time management technique, you are supposed to attempt mock number 1 via the exam platform. You will struggle. That's totally fine. You need not conduct revision. Simply try to test your answering and time management techniques. And once you're done with mock exam 1, attempt mock 2 via the exam platform. And after attempting mock number 2, then focus your attention towards revision. So redevelop answer plans concerning both mocks 1 and 2. Once you have, before you redevelop the answer plan, go through the answer plans which we have provided. So let's assume you are revising based on mock number 1. Go through the answer plan of mock number 1. After going through it, you will realize how you should have structured your answer, which points you should have included in your answer. Once you have gained a good understanding of all these things, develop the answer plan on your own. After you have developed the answer plan on your own, compare your fresh answer plan to TCS's answer plan to see where you stand as a student. So stick to this process. If you do so, on a weekly basis, you are taking steps to attempt mocks as well as conduct revision at the same time. And on a weekly basis, if you focus on because from week 4 onwards, it's simply a matter of attempting 1 single mock exam per week. So if you stick to the study plan, a week before the exam, you will be done with all 6 mock attempts, and at the same time, you will be done with revision concerning all 6 mock exams. If so, you can start relaxing within week number 8, which leads up to your real examination. I hope you'd stick to this study plan. And having said that, let's move on to the discussion of mock exam 1. So in today's session, I'm going to take you through section number 2 of mock number 1. I don't have time to go through section number 2 in its entirety. Instead, I'm simply going to direct your attention towards the first subtask. All right. So according to the answering technique, you are supposed to read the scenario. So let's read through the scenario. You receive the following email from the finance manager, and the subject goes as property, plant and equipment and KPIs. The board recently decided to acquire automated door tippers to streamline our production process. These machines will gently lift and tip dough batches directly onto conveyor belts, replacing the current manual door tipping method. So we are going for further automation. This automation will enhance efficiency, reduce manual labor, and minimize the risk of contamination. The acquisition process is currently underway. I have prepared a list of expenses that we have incurred in the acquisition of these new machines. However, I am unsure if all these expenses should be capitalized. All right, so let's look at the requirement. Therefore, could you please give me a brief explanation about the criteria for capitalization of expenditure and the treatment for each of these expenses in the financial statements? Please refer to the information which I have attached within this email. See table 1 in preparing your response. So let's go through table number 1 to figure out what this is all about. So table 1 indicates costs related to the purchase of automated door tipping machine. All right, so let's look at each cost item. It's going to cost us 2.5 million dollars to purchase these machines, which includes value-added tax. The building work required to modify the operations bay comes up to 700,000. So in order to be in a position to utilize these machines, we have to modify our operations bay, which is going to cost us 700,000 dollars. And for maintenance and service contract costs, we are expected to spend $80,000. Crew training cost comes up to $120,000 in total. There's a note connected to this crew training cost. The employees involved with machinery maintenance needs to attend training sessions to be able to maintain these new machines. So these are new machines, and in order to maintain them properly, our maintenance crew needs to go through a training process, which is going to cost us 120,000 pounds or dollars as per this scenario. And some of the machines that were purchased, there are essential modification cost, which comes up to $400,000 as well. Let's look at what these modifications are. Some of the machines that were purchased required certain modifications that had to be installed additionally. So before we utilize these machines, we are expected to modify them, and in turn, we are supposed to spend $400,000. And the interest cost comes up to $74,000. The machines were purchased using debt finance at an interest of 5% per annum. So this interest cost comes up to $74,000. All right, so these are the information presented. What are you expected to do? You are supposed to give a brief explanation about the criteria for capitalization of expenditure. So that's the first part of your requirement, and the treatment for each of these expenses in the financial statements. That's the second part of your requirement. All right, so as per our answering technique, after reading through the scenario, what is your job? To reiterate each requirement in your own words in a concise manner. So that's exactly what you can see here. I've reiterated the requirement or simplified the requirement as capitalization of expenses. That's the first part of your requirement, and the impact on financial statements, which is the second part of your requirement. All right, so we are done with step number 2. Then step number 3 is to develop headings and subheadings. So this question tests your understanding about capitalization. So capitalization of expenses and impact on financial statements, that could be your main heading, which is in bold and underlined format. So you have determined your main heading. Then you should focus your attention towards developing the answer plan, taking 20 minutes of your time. Before you develop the answer plan, you are expected to determine the mark allocations based on the weightages provided. So the weightage provided is 40%. You know for a fact for the entire section, in total, 37.5 marks are dedicated. So 40% of 37.5 marks come up to 15 marks in total. Each valid point carries 2 or 3 marks. So in order to score 15 marks, you need to come up with 5 to 7 valid points within your answer plan concerning this subtask. All right, so we have determined the mark allocation. Now we should proceed towards developing the answer plan. So when it comes to developing the answer plan, let's scroll down to the relevant answer plan. Okay. So I've come up with a main heading which goes as capitalization of expenditure, new door tipper machines, which is in bold and underlined format. So when developing this answer, you are supposed to explain which of these expenses can be capitalized and which of these expenses should be expensed, and how these capitalized costs or costs which are expensed will impact various different financial statements. That's what you're supposed to explain in here. So when it comes to capitalizing expenditure, which accounting standard should we use? IAS 16, property, plant, and equipment. So for mentioning the relevant accounting standard along with its the number and its name, you get 1 single mark. So that's exactly what I've highlighted here. You should be conversant with IAS 16, property, plant, and equipment to develop a high quality answer concerning this requirement. So this is all about capitalizing expenditure. So in order to capitalize a certain expenditure, an asset must be created. So as per IAS 16, if we are to capitalize a certain expenditure, we should create an asset. And how can we determine whether an asset is created or not? An asset is created if we are probable that the expenditure results in future economic benefit. So the amount of money which we spend right now to purchase an asset should result in future economic benefit. So if you are spending money on something which gives us future economic benefits, then it can be treated as an asset. And on top of that, the expenditure should be reliably measured. So if we can reliably measure how much we are going to spend to purchase something, or spend how much we are spending on a certain investment, then if we can reliably measure these expenses, then we can easily say that an asset has been created. So if we are spending money with the intention of generating future economic benefit, and at the same time, if we can reliably measure this expenditure, we can safely say that an asset has been created. So all these things are highlighted within IAS 16. And on top of that, with regards to considering an investment on an asset, we should make sure, again as per IAS 16, we should make sure that the asset should be held for the supply of goods and services. Why are we spending this money? To purchase new door tipper machines, and by investing on these machines, we are trying to increase the efficiency of our production process, and this efficiency will lead to additional production, additional output or additional production in the future. So the asset should be held for the supply of goods and services. That's exactly what we are doing right now by investing on these machines, and the asset should be held for more than one accounting period. We should not just invest money with the intention of not making returns in the long run. If we are investing on something with the intention of making long-term returns, or if you are holding on to this asset for more than one accounting period, typically an accounting period goes on for 12 months. So if we are holding on to a certain asset for more than 12 months or for more than one accounting period, such machinery can be considered as such investments rather can be considered as investments which were made to purchase an asset. So an asset is created if we are probable that the expenditure results in future economic benefit. Definitely these new machines will generate future profits. Why is this the case? The efficiency improves. When the efficiency improves, the profits will improve as well. And the expenditure should be measured in a reliable manner. Yes, we are in a position to measure the expenditure because all this expenditure highlighted in this reference material is cash related. It is in K dollar terms. So we have fulfilled the first two requirements, and the asset should be held for the supply of goods and services. Yes, This asset will be used to improve our manufacturing output. So this has been met, and the asset should be held for more than one accounting period. Definitely, we will be utilizing this machine in the long run. So we have met this requirement as well. So we have met the capitalization criteria as per IAS 16 property, plant, and equipment. So we can capitalize these expenses. All right. So that's I've started my answer by explaining the capitalization process as per IAS 16 property, plant, and equipment. Then I'm talking about which of these expenses can be capitalized and which of these expenses should not be capitalized. So I've come up with a subheading which goes as treatment of items in the schedule. So before talking about how to treat these cost items in the schedule, we need to think in terms of how to conduct our capitalization process or the method of capitalization. So as per IAS 16, if you are to capitalize something, it should be the purchase price of an asset, which should include import duties. And also, we should consider the directly attributable costs incurred to get the asset ready for its intended use. So we have spent $2.5 million to purchase this asset. However, just because we purchase this asset, we cannot, use it. Before using it, we have to modify our operations bay, and at the same time, we have to spend money on some essential modification costs as well. So these are the type of costs which are considered as directly attributable costs incurred to get the asset ready for its intended use. So if you are to capitalize, we need to create an asset. Yes, we have created an asset as per what's highlighted within this scenario. After that, we need to think in terms of how to go ahead with this capitalization process. When capitalizing, we need to consider the purchase price of the asset along with its import duties. Also, we should consider the directly attributable costs which were incurred to get the asset ready for its intended use. For writing these 2 points, you get 2 marks. All right. So then let's work on application. So first things first, let's look at the costs which should be capitalized. So any type of cost which is capitalized is sent to the statement of financial position or the balance sheet and will be included as the value of the asset under the statement of financial position. So the costs to be capitalized is the purchase price inclusive of VAT, since Halfpenny is not VAT registered. So there's no mention about us being VAT registered within the pre-scene. So it's safe to assume that we are not VAT registered. So when it comes to capitalizing, what did I tell you? We should consider the purchase price, which includes the import duties. There's no indication of import duties. So we should consider the purchase price, including the value-added taxes. And on top of that, we should consider the directly attributable costs as well. So these directly attributable costs are building work required to modify the operations bay, because just because we purchase these assets, we cannot use them. We cannot face future economic benefits right now unless and otherwise we modify the operations bay. So this is a cost which is a directly attributable expense. So this should be included within the asset value. And at the same time, there are essential modification costs as well. Without modifying these assets, we cannot modifying these machines rather, we cannot use them properly as per our requirement. So this essential modification cost should be included within the asset value as well. So considering this information, the asset value comprises of $2.5 million plus $700,000 plus $400,000. So that should be the value of the asset as per the capitalization method highlighted within IAS 16 property, plant, and equipment. All right, so that's that. Then let's look at the type of costs we should expense. So these costs which are expensed should not be taken to the statement of financial position, should not be included as part of the asset value. Instead, these costs should be expensed to the statement of profit and loss. All right. So there's a mention about crew training costs, which come up to $120,000. So these are the investments made on our employees with the intention of training them, training our maintenance employees so that they are capable of maintaining these new machines. So although this looks like an investment, we should not consider it to be part of the value of the asset, because in order to, when we keep using these machines, we have to maintain them. So this is simply a matter of making sure that we are capable of using these machines in the long run. So it has nothing to do with the cost of these machines, or these cannot be considered as directly attributable costs, especially given the fact that, let's assume we spend money to train these employees, and 2 or 3 of them 6 months down the line leave the organization, which indicates the fact that we have spent money on our employees, not on the machine but on our employees, and 2 or 3 of them end up leaving the organization. So we are not in a position to generate future economic benefit if our employees are leaving us. So because of that, this crew training cost is considered not considered as a directly attributable expense. Instead, it's a revenue expenditure. In order to keep using these machines, we need to conduct maintenance, and in order to make sure that we conduct our maintenance initiatives in the most successful manner, we have to train our employees. So that's a revenue expenditure. So such revenue expenditure should be charged to the statement of profit and loss. And there's a mention about maintenance and service contract cost, which comes up to $80,000. So this is ongoing maintenance. Again, this is a revenue expenditure. This cannot be considered as a directly attributable expense. Why is this the case? We are not incurring this cost with the intention of purchasing the asset, or with the intention of getting the asset ready for its intended use. We are spending these maintenance costs after we start utilizing this asset. So these are not expenses which are spent to get the asset ready for its intended use. Instead, we are spending this money after we start utilizing this asset. So in order to keep the asset running, in order to keep this machine running rather, we are spending this money. So that's again a revenue expenditure which is charged to the statement of profit and loss. And this interest component, which comes up to $74,000, is tied to debt financing interest, which is 5% per annum. So this has nothing to do with the asset value. We have simply gone for loan financing, and as per loan financing, we are expected to pay a 5% interest, or this is our finance cost. This is the cost which we have to incur due to us having to finance this asset, and such finance costs, as you know, should be charged to the statement of profit and loss. So the only type of expenses which we can capitalize as per the asset value is the purchase price, which includes VAT, and directly attributable costs such as modifying the operations bay and costs tied to machine modification costs. All other expenses should be expensed. The training and ongoing maintenance costs should be expensed to the SOPL, as they are revenue expenditure, and the interest component, which is a finance cost, should be expensed again to the statement of profit and loss. All right, so this question is intended to test your understanding about capitalization of expenditure, which falls under IAS 16 property, plant, and equipment. So when developing your answer, if you stick to this exact structure, if you highlight these exact points, you will get full marks, no questions asked. So it's quite easy. Now, for instance, if you just have access to the suggested answer, you would have to read through pages and pages of information to figure out which points you need to include, and at the same time to figure out the logic behind the answer. But when you have access to this answer plan such as this, you can easily understand which points you need to include to gain marks and how to structure your answer. And at the same time, you can easily understand the logic behind the entire answer. So when addressing a question to do with capitalization of expenditure, start by mentioning IAS 16 property, plant, and equipment. And as for IAS 16, an asset should be, in order to capitalize expenditure, an asset should be created, and an asset is created if we are probable about a future economic benefit, and if the expenses can be reliably measured, and an asset should be held for the supply of goods and services, and it should be held for more than one accounting period. So you have explained IAS 16's capitalization process. Then talk about treatment, and then thereby talking about the method of capitalization. So you can only capitalize the purchase price and directly attributable costs. All other costs should be expensed. And I've highlighted the costs to be capitalized concerning the information presented in your reference material, along with the costs to be expensed as well. So after after attempting your mock exam, go through the answer plan. After going through the answer plan, try to figure out whether you are capable of developing an answer plan which is akin to TCS's answer plans by doing it on your own. Try to compile your own answer plan and see whether you are covering all these points. If you do so, if a capitalization related question is thrown at you, you will get full marks at your examination. So that's the benefit of having access to these answer plans. So once you are done with it, once you have developed the answer plan, you are supposed to expand the answer plan in paragraph form. So if there are 5 main points within your answer plan, in your answer, you need to have 5 different paragraphs. So when it comes to expanding the answer, it should look something like this, which is in paragraph form. Okay, so that's how you should structure your answers and develop answers. So I invite you to practice your answering technique by attempting mock number 1 via TCS's exam platform. I showed you how you can gain access to our exam platform and how you can therefore attempt mock number 1. Attempt this mock exam under exam conditions. Your main objective should be to implement the answering and time management technique which you learned right now. Try to see whether you are successful in implementing these techniques. You will definitely run out of time. Definitely you'd be stressed. Definitely you'd struggle with the answering technique. You'd be, you'd encounter certain hiccups. That's totally fine. Your job is to encounter all these issues when attempting mocks rather than encountering them for the first time at your real exam. Because if you encounter these issues right now, you know how you can take steps to avoid these issues, because you can fix all these problems when conducting revision, when redeveloping answer plans. So stick to this process, attempt the weekly mock exam, then focus your attention towards revision by redeveloping answer plans. And if you stick to this process across 6 weeks, you are taking steps to cover the entire syllabus and at the same time conduct revision. And if so, you can relax closer to the examination. So the students who stuck to this method achieved a sure pass at the OCS exam, which happened in February 2025. We are still in the process of compiling the results pertaining to the May 2025 sitting. However, results are good this time as well. We are yet to reach out to 3 different individuals who have not gotten back to us. So in February, we achieved a 96% pass rate. And this individual who attempted the exam for the 3rd time, having failed in the first sittings, achieved a first-time pass with us, not just by getting 80 marks, but by getting 98 marks. So you can achieve a similar feat if you stick to our study process, if you invest time to attempt the 6 mocks and conduct revision based on the same 6 mock exams. All right, so having said that, we are moving on to the Q&A session. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can switch on your mic and talk, or drop us a message via the chat. I'm going to pause the recording. All right, folks, seems like there aren't any questions. I hope that you have understood the answering technique as well as the time management technique, which I highlighted. So if you want to contact us, you can do it via our website, which is www.study@tcs.com. visit our website and simply click on the contact button and drop us a message. Our admin staff will get in touch with you via email during office hours, or you can directly email us at info@study@tcs.com, or simply drop us a message via this WhatsApp number. I urge you guys to follow us on our social media handles, especially YouTube and TikTok, because the recorded version of this session, as well as the previous sessions and the upcoming sessions, will be uploaded to our YouTube handle. And via TikTok, you'd gain access to 6 videos, which is a good mind map of the entire pre-scene. So keep watching these TikTok videos over and over until the day of your exam, to make sure that you are constantly keeping yourself reminded of what appears within your pre-scene document. And if you're yet to read the blog post, click on the blog area and read the blog post concerning Halfpenny, which is a good summary of the entire pre-scene. All right, so having said that, it brings us to the end of the third webinar. I hope you gained something out of this session, and I really urge you guys to practice the answering and time management techniques in order to master them before you walk into your examination. And if you are yet to start your preparations, you have enough and more time. You have 6 weeks at your disposal. So start right now. Don't waste time, because if you do so, you will have time to attempt mock exams, but you won't have time to conduct revision, which is essential to ensure good results. So I hope you'd start right now. And I hope to see you guys next week at the 4th webinar, in which I'm going to take you through examiners' comments. And at the same time, I'm going to share stress management techniques. Just like how I taught you answering and time management techniques today, I will be teaching you stress management techniques in next week's webinar. So hope to see you there. Thank you very much for joining, and take care.